first of all, thanks for being here. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And I want to say also, very much enjoyed your presentation at Training Mag. It was one of the best things that I'd seen there to date. And this was like my 6th time going. So I'm not like Bob Pike level of, I was there when it started, but I've been there a few times, and it was very, very good. But before we get into what you talked about there, Deb, can you first just tell me your story? Tell me about yourself.
Sure. So first, thanks so much, Duane, for having me. It's really a pleasure to be able to speak with you about my favorite subject. So my background is in marketing communications. I also have an MBA, and I have worked for myself for most of my career. And at present, what I do is help talent leaders achieve what I call the recognition trifecta. So if you want to be recognized for excellence in your field, regardless of what that field is, 3 fundamental things you can do: win awards, speak at conferences, and publish thought leadership. So depending on the client and where they are in their recognition journey, as it were, I might help them with 1, 2, or all 3 of those. Now, the session that you came to of mine at the training conference was about winning awards. But certainly all of these topics are connected. It's about getting your story out there and positioning yourself as a leader, and therefore as a leader of an organization that drives results.
So I guess what I'm wondering here, you talked about 3 things. You talked about publishing, thought leadership. You talked about speaking at conferences. You talked about winning awards. How much are those interconnected? Like, in order to win awards, do you have to have been a thought leader or been published? Do you more likely to get published if you've won awards? And, can you train without being published? That sort of thing.
That's a really great question. I would say that they can be interrelated, but they don't necessarily have to be. So I was actually talking with someone this morning about this. So here are ways that those 3 things could be connected. So let's say, for example, that you have a great learning program and you have won an award for that learning program. How you win the award, we'll get to in a minute. But so that means that you've done the work of thinking through what the story is. You've got the narrative arc, the original problem, the business problem that was the catalyst for the program, the solution, and then the results. You might then apply to speak at a conference based on that program, sharing the story of that program and the results that you were able to drive. And you may also be able to turn that same narrative into a story that you can publish in a trade journal, TD magazine, CLO magazine, and or write about on social media, create a LinkedIn post or a series of 2 or 3 LinkedIn posts about that same topic. So that's one way that you could combine them. Now, in terms of the question, like, do you have to have won awards to speak at a conference? No, definitely not. Might it help you if you have award wins in your bio? I think having won awards can help anybody in their bio, regardless of what it is that they want to achieve. It is an external affirmation that you are someone who knows how to get results. And so that's going to have something of a halo effect in everything that you do. But it's not necessarily, it is not a prerequisite, I should say, for publishing thought leadership or for winning awards, although these things can come in combination, right? So if you're applying to speak at a conference and you've won an award and you are also a published author, then that may strengthen your candidacy as a presenter.
One thing that I noticed this year, because I was looking at the social media when we were at the conference, that after the night, I remember the first time I went to the conference. Let me back up. The first time I went to the conference, I was standing around going, why are people wearing tuxedos? What am I missing here? Why is everyone all dressed up? And then somebody said, oh, it's the awards. I'm like, awards? What awards are you talking about? Had no idea. So this year they've been holding it in Orlando over, the past few years. And I see the folks heading into the awards.
Yeah.
And what really impressed me was how many of the winners you were involved with. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. So I have been involved with helping companies win learning awards, talent awards overall, but especially learning awards since 2008. And that was the first time I applied for what was called then the Training Top 125 Award. And I've worked on that award every year since. I actually lost count of the total number of companies that I've worked with on that award. But I have been very privileged and honored to work with the best of the best. As I got better at what I did, as I got better at helping companies win awards, I was able to work with better and better companies that are, doing more and more really innovative and impactful work in learning. And so that has helped me get them to number one wins. So I've got, a few dozen top 20 winners. I think about 3 dozen top 20 winners and 9 number one winners on the Training Apex Award.
That's incredible. And this year, didn't the person, correct me if I'm wrong, the top winner this year won last year?
Yeah.
And you were involved both years?
That is right. Several of those 9 number one wins were double wins. And it's so interesting because helping companies get to number one is a combination of following the rules. What is this award about? How is it assessed? How is it scored? And helping the client to meet those scoring criteria, but also helping the clients think through what they can do during the year to improve the way they're measuring results. So it's not like, the proverbial putting lipstick on a pig, right? To win awards, you need to do 2 things. You need to have a great story and you need to tell a great story. But you can't tell a great story unless you have a great story. So if you look at how I've worked with those companies over the years, the ones that reached number one, it was a journey. It was a multi-year journey. And that journey involved discussions as we were working together on the award application about, how could you strengthen the way you're measuring the business impact here? How could you tie this learning program more closely to behavior change and driving KPIs? So it's really both. And that's been one of the greatest things about the work that I do. It's not just helping companies to be recognized for excellence, but to actually help them increase their excellence as a means to becoming recognized, if you see. So it sort of works both ways. I think there's a misperception that somehow what I do is like voodoo or magic or, helping people crack the code and, giving people, tips on how to, I don't know. But there's no substitute for having done the work in order to get the recognition.
It's not like you're taking somebody who's got a single slide deck and they've been teaching it on the street corner and suddenly they win. These are folks who have been putting in a lot of the details that go into genuinely good training programs.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's say that.
Well, just one other point that I wanted to make is that sometimes I think that my role is simply, well, not simply, but in addition to other things, is bringing an outside perspective. So I can't tell you how many times I've worked with a client and they've told me about their program and I would say to them, well, so it seems to me like you did X, Y, and Z. And they were like, I never thought of it that way before. But yeah, you're right. So sometimes I actually show them a new way of seeing their own effectiveness and their own creativity that they just kind of took for granted, that it wasn't that special, or, just hadn't realized what an impact they were making. So that's also really fun to do.
Let's say that I'm looking at applying for awards, right? And, I've been working at this for a while, and I'm going to go to my bosses and say, hey, I really think we should start working towards winning some of these awards. And of course, the boss is going to look at you and say, why? What's in it for us? So how do you answer that question to the boss who's skeptical about even bothering with this?
That is such a great question. I get that question all the time. So before I answer it, I'm just going to say, one of the things to think about is, when you think about the Fortune's 100 best companies to work for, that's probably the best known industry award out there. And you look at the companies that are applying for that award and that are coming into the top 10. These are some of the best known brands in the world. Why do you think they bother? Because you have to apply for an award like that. They don't just give it to you out of the goodness of their heart. You have to apply, and it's a process and it's a lot of work. So if those companies, these companies that invest so much in their brand, if they're going after awards, then maybe there's something to it. So that's the first thing I want to say. Then in terms of the benefits, I look at them on 3 levels. So the first level is the corporate level. If your company has won an award for training, that's a good publicity for your company, right? The company got its name out there, and that's something that you were able to do. In addition, the company is showing thought leadership. We are excellent in this field. And that can help the employer brand, because people say, wow, that must be a good place to work because they get awards for their training. I want to do award-winning training. So you can build both your corporate brand and your employer brand through winning awards. So that's at the corporate level. Then at the team level, right, if you're talking to like your CLO or whoever it is, chief people officer, whoever your decision maker may be, I'm pretty sure that person wants to increase the credibility of their team, the strength of relationships with stakeholders of that team, and probably would want to build morale as well. I think one of the things that really endears my clients to me is that they're good people who put up with a lot. Learning folks are not always the most appreciated in a corporate environment. And this is a way to generate publicity, goodwill, brand building, et cetera. And that is all going to reflect really well on the team. And the third level is, of course, the individual level. So that leader may be thinking about their long-term career prospects and building their own personal brand. And winning an award is a way to do that as well, not just for the leader, but for everybody on the team. If you've won an award, you are an award-winning instructional designer, leadership development director, whatever it is that goes on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, and it stays there forever. Forever. You win an award once and you are an award-winning XYZ. So it's also great for visibility, your visibility as an individual, your credibility as a professional. And it also just really helps to build confidence and momentum. And finally, people love winning. It is just such a boost. I love seeing when my clients win. They are just so happy. They feel so seen and validated and celebrated. And it's a really wonderful thing. So those are the benefits of winning. But then there are all these other benefits that actually are part of the process itself. So I call it inspiration from aspiration. All right. So if you decide, if you decide like, hey, I really want to win an award in the next 2 years or whatever it is, you set your sights on the award. You decide which award you want to go for. You decide which program has the best chance of winning. And then you go about looking at, okay, well, where are all the gaps? What are the things about this program that we've known all along? Like we really, we have an opportunity to enhance that. Let's do that now. Let's take this opportunity because we know we want to get to the point where we have a really great story to tell. And so that process in and of itself can really push you to just go the extra mile and make that program that much better than it already is. There's also a lot of learning that you can do I know if you apply for an award and you win bronze and you thought you should have won gold, that's an opportunity to learn and to benchmark um, against other companies. So there's so many benefits, and you learn so much about your program by having to write about it. That's also something I've seen over and over again over the last 15 years. People just learn so much from the experience. It's actually in many ways, the award is the cherry on top, and the real prize is being able to prove that you made an impact.
Well, you've sold me. I'm 100% in. How do we get started?
Great question. So, I get asked a lot, like, Deb, what's the best award to apply for? The short answer to that question is the one you can win. And the longer answer to that question is, there are a number of different factors that you want to take into account as you're thinking about which award to apply for. So I have, of course, because I'm a consultant, I have an acronym. It is SKILL with a C, SCILL. So you want to think about, first of all, your strengths. What are you good at? Which of your programs are the most impactful, the most popular, the most supported by senior leaders, the most strategically aligned with your business? That is the place to start, is where are your strengths? Next, you want to think about the C is the company you keep, right? So who else is going to be on that list? I just spent 3 years in-house at Accenture. Accenture was my client for a long time. And out of the blue during the pandemic, they offered me a job. It seemed like a great opportunity to work with incredible people and have a change of pace. And I had a really great experience. And something that I always observed at Accenture was whenever they won an award, they always reported on, here are our peers and competitors that also won this award. And I'm sure that's what, the companies that take awards seriously, I'm sure they do the same, right? Because senior leaders want to know, okay, you won this award, but who else is there? If you won an award, but all of the other companies that won are, no one's ever heard of them, then it may not have as much resonance. So think about the company you want to keep. Maybe in terms of figuring out what awards you want to apply for, find out what awards your competitors are winning. Maybe those are the ones that you want to target. So the third letter is I, and that's your image. What kind of image are you trying to build? What do you want to be known for? If, let's say, you've invested a lot in recruiting early talent and you've got an incredible onboarding program and you've got a leadership development program for high potential early talent, then maybe that's an award that you want to go for because that's something you really want to promote for your company. The first L of skill is leaders, right? So your senior leaders in the company, what do they care about? I had a client once whose senior leaders wanted them to, they preferred that they apply for an award that was given by Chief Learning Officer magazine over ATD, I think it was, because it was Chief Learning Officer magazine. And that's a C-level, right? To them, their perception was this is given out by people, in the C-suite. So that must be more important. Perception is reality, I guess. And really, and that brings us to the last L, because the thing that matters the most is how are you going to leverage this award? As I like to say, an award plaque on your wall is worth about as much as a check on your desk. You got to cash it in. All right. So once you've won the award, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to make sure that all of your recruiters know that you've won the award so that they can mention it to candidates? They can put it in their materials, right? To help you recruit the best talent to your organization. How else can you leverage this? Also internally, take that award logo, put it in your email signature, put it on everyone in L&D, put it in their email signature so that everyone at the company knows that you've won an award. So you really want to think about how you're going to leverage that win. So that's the skill: strengths, company you keep, your image, your leadership, what they care about, and how you will leverage it.
I had not considered the company you keep, and it makes sense because if you've got GE winning a training award up against Joe's Electric down the street, people are going to be like, "Come on,
Yeah.
seriously?" But if Joe's Electric beats GE, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a company called Two Men in a Truck, and they have been on the Training Apex Award list. They were on it for many years. I can't remember if they were on it this year. But when you've got a ranking award that has almost 100 winners, then you do have a lot of opportunities for companies to put their best foot forward. So you should also not, if your company doesn't have, a household name as a brand, doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for it also.
Yeah, that's a question I was curious about because I think it was a few years ago, living in a small town. Of course, we've got a Dollar General in town, and probably another one 7 miles away. And if you go enough the other way, there's another Dollar General. And Dollar General, I believe, won a high level award.
Yes,
it may have been top.
It was
125.
Yes, we're also 2-year in a row winners, and also my clients. I'm very proud to say. Yeah,
fantastic. So my question is, if I'm sitting alone, maybe I'm the sole person in the training department, and I'm looking at going up against a Dollar General, that can be discouraging. Is that something you look at and you say, find a different award, or is it okay? Can you win this?
That's a really great question, and I think I would go back to that Skill acronym and the S, which is strengths. Right, you need to play to your strengths. It may be that if you're a one-person L&D department, it may be hard for you to win an award like the Training Apex. They ask a lot of questions. They require a lot of metrics, and it may not be. And it may be the case. I don't know. I don't want to, kind of jump to conclusions based on the size of a team. But you want to look at what's realistic for you and understand what are the requirements of any award that you may be going for, and make sure that you can meet those award criteria. So you want to invest your time wisely and go for awards that have what I call a high winnability factor for you. And the winnability factor is, there are some awards that you apply for and there's only one winner. One such example, at least it was in the past, I don't know if it still is, the International Coaching Federation. And they give out an award and they have one winner and one runner-up. That is a hard award to win. Because there are just so few opportunities to be recognized, as opposed to, for example, the Brandon Hall Group, HCM Excellence Awards and Technology Excellence Awards. Their award is based on a scoring system. And all the companies that score, within a certain range will win gold. And the ones that score within, a different range is silver and then bronze. So you could have 6 gold winners and 5 silver winners and 9 bronze winners. So it's not a zero-sum game. So that's also something to take into consideration is what are your chances of winning if you were to apply for this award?
You said something in your answer there that reminded me of something you said earlier. And it just strikes me that if you applied for this award, one of the biggest benefits coming out of this could just be the overall improvement of your training in-house, because you said they ask a lot of questions for that Apex award. And I thought, I'll bet they ask questions you'd never even considered answering because you'd never thought about doing things like that in your training. Have you seen your clients as they go through this process just take what they thought was world-class training and make it even 100%. Better?
Absolutely. And like I was saying, that's part of the inspiration from aspiration. And it's also true. And Lori Freifeld is she's the editor-in-chief of Training Magazine and the head of the award. And she talks about this, she has restructured, sort of tweaked the award formula over the years in such a way that it sort of forces companies to do more measurement, to have stronger relationships with their stakeholders, to look at how they can, do things like decrease attrition, because if you have a high attrition rate, that's going to impact your score. So, as I was saying earlier, the companies that I've worked with that have gotten to number one didn't just get to number one in 1 year. It was a journey. And part of that journey was looking at, okay, if I want to do well on this award, what are the criteria and what are the changes that I need to drive within my organization if I'm going to get there? So, in certain cases, I have worked with organizations that were already doing a great job, and I just had to help them tell their story. But very often, the folks that I'm working with get the extra bonus of also, getting perspective on where they could be doing more to measure impact and to, raise the level of their program. It turns out, although I'm not a learning practitioner, it turns out with it, when you write about learning programs for 15 years, you pick up a thing or two.
Yeah, you might learn
It's
something
true,
about learning.
especially when you're working with number one winners. Like, I've seen a lot of innovation
Mhm.
out there, and I obviously haven't seen everything, but I've seen a lot. And so the cumulative experience that I've gained over the years also helps me advise my clients based on, well, I've seen a company with a similar program do X, Y, or Z. Have you considered that? So that's also very rewarding for me when I'm able to sort of take those best practices and seed them from to other companies.
Speaking of not
Yeah.
seeing everything, we're coming up
Oh,
at the end of the podcast, and we've barely
yeah.
scratched the surface of everything that we could have talked about. So there's going to be folks that hear this, I hope, want to reach out to you and learn more and maybe work with you. Where can people get in touch
Yeah,
with you?
so I am available at debarnoldinc.com. That's Inc with a K. And you can also reach me at debarnoldinc.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to me through any of those methods. And I would love to speak with anyone about any aspect of their recognition journey, whether it has to do with learning awards or anything else.
What would you say in closing to the person who's thinking about this, but they just don't know whether they should pull the trigger on it or not? They don't know if it's worth their time.
I would say let's have a conversation. And I'm always very honest with people about whether or not, especially, they should pursue an award. It's a lot of work. And as I like to say, my win record, and I've helped companies win more than 200 awards at this point. My win record is your insurance policy. Like, I don't want you to apply for an award that you aren't going to win, as much, if not more, than you don't want to apply for an award that you're not going to win. So, and I also have something I call it an award readiness assessment. It's a structured process through which a company can take an individual program and understand, what I call the 4 fundamentals of a winning program, and to look at those 4 fundamentals, comparing them to what they're doing currently in their program, and see whether they're ready to apply for an award now. And if not, what could they do to get ready to do that award? So always happy to have a conversation about where people are, and if they're not ready, what they can do to get ready.
Listen, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. I know that getting to where we're at right now, it was a bit more of a hassle than I intended it to be.
Okay.
And so I thank you for your grace, and thank you for being here. And just thanks for taking
Thanks
the
so
time
much
to
for
talk
inviting
with us.
me to be here, Duane. Like I said, it's my favorite topic. I love helping people get the recognition they deserve, and I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.